Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding yesterday's White House press briefing, where reporters push back and call out Karine Jean-Pierre and her hypocrisy. Folks, you're going to love this one. Support an American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. If you don't know what to write, tell us who you plan on voting for in 2024. Is it going to be Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence? Heck, let us know in the comment section below. We look forward to reading your responses. With that being said, the first reporter we got geared up here for y'all is the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, folks, the gladiator, Peter Doocy of Fox News, questioning Karine Jean-Pierre on the president's thoughts and the White House's thoughts on this Trump indictment. Let's see her response.
Okay. All right. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
To follow up on that, President Biden is a lawyer. Is he
And
concerned?
the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief, but go ahead.
He is, but as a lawyer, is he concerned at all that a local DA indicting a former president could, down the line, open up the possibility, set the precedent, that local DAs that don't like former President Biden could indict him?
I'm not.
Simple answer is yes. That's literally what everybody is talking about here, on how this door has been swung right open and is never going to be closed again. This has never happened in American history. It's going to happen and continue to happen now. And Lord only knows what type of baggage Joe Biden has. Nobody's really looked under the hood for Joe Biden. But I'll tell you what, it's going to happen now. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that's been jam-packed in that bad boy. Oh boy, can I not wait. But let's let him continue here.
I'm going to comment from here.
Why don't you have more to say about the Trump indictment?
It is an ongoing case, and I've been very clear about that. We've been prudent about that, not commenting on ongoing cases, and we're going to stick to that.
But for
Peter?
better or worse, all that anybody in the country is talking about at this exact moment while we were in here is Trump. And they look here to find out what the White House thinks about it. And
Well, I think the American people should feel reassured that when there is an ongoing case like this one, that we're just not commenting.
so does the lack of comment mean that you do not think anything happening in New York today is one of the top issues facing the country at the moment?
That's your assessment. That's not my assessment. I'm just laying out the facts that we are just not going to comment on an ongoing case from here. And we've been very consistent. We've been very prudent, and we're going to stick there.
So this happened again at 28 minutes into the press briefing, folks. And she's like, well, we've been clear. We've been prudent. We've been doing this the entire time, not commenting on investigations. Well, a reporter here picks up on that real quick and basically calls her out going, well, you had a lot to say about January 6th, and there was an ongoing investigation about that. There's always ongoing investigations happening, and you're just commenting left and right about everything else. Why not this? Folks, watch this exchange. This is reality TV. This is drama here for you. Let's roll it.
As a state.
The president has spoken repeatedly about January 6th. He gave at least two major speeches that I can think of, and he's talked at length in various forums. There were more than 500 active legal cases going on during the time that he made those speeches, all of which potentially would have been affected by whatever his opinions were on the circumstances surrounding those cases. What is different between his being willing to talk about not the specifics of individual cases, but to talk about the issues presented by what happened on January 6th and questions about, just to put a fine point on it, I'm sort of going on Peter's point, it's like, and frankly, a lot of the questions here, there's an understanding about not wanting to comment specifically about this case, perhaps, but there are issues that are presented. People have been talking about them for weeks now, when any former president would be indicted for the first time and arrested for the first time. What is the White House's reticence, and what's the difference between that and this?
What a good question, folks. This gets me hyped. I'm telling you, I watch every single one of these, and when a good question comes our way, we got to display it. And damn, give this guy kudos. I wish I knew his name. I knew it at one point. I forget people's names. Forgive me, folks. But heck, how do you think she's going to respond here? Because we've seen this time and time again. Most recently, probably not just with the Twitter files, I mean, the classified documents that were basically found everywhere around Joe Biden's home and in his garage and all these other places. But we also saw it with these surveillance balloons that were shot out of the sky where they couldn't comment on anything remotely about surveillance or remotely anything about classified documents. If you said the word documents, she couldn't comment on about it. So he's bringing up a good point here of you were willy-nilly just talking about stuff about January 6th and hounding Republicans for all this stuff. And there's about 500 other cases that what you said could have affected. So why are you not just spilling the beans on this or even talking remotely about it? Let's see her response, folks.
Done.
I'm done. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But with all seriousness, January 6th was a devastating day. Like, you guys, I think if you guys weren't there, some of your colleagues were on Capitol Hill. We had law enforcement, police officers who were attacked, who died. And what we saw on that day was an attack on our democracy. It was a devastating, devastating day in our history. And it was a moment for this president to have spoken to, right? You had millions and millions of Americans who watched what was happening on Capitol Hill, something that many of us, I've never seen it, and many of us had never, ever seen before, you know? And it was something that needed to be spoken to. When you see something like
What the hell is she talking about, folks? If you're a frequent viewer of the Bald Brad Show, I was just looking for the answer. That's literally all we ever do. But she's going to sit here and still spew the same garbage that Democrats have been spewing about January 6th, which has already been debunked. Look, we already saw the footage, people walking around, taking selfies, being chauffeured around as like a VIP tour around the Capitol. It's a threat to democracy. You'll see her mention people died that day. People died that day. Still basically like pushing the whole narrative. By the way, the false narrative, speaking of misinformation, disinformation that she always talks about, people die on Capitol Hill, which they didn't die on Capitol Hill. You had one person that got shot, but she's going to make it seem like it was a pandemic, like an epidemic going on there. Everybody's getting shot. Everybody's getting destroyed. Just it was a threat to democracy. Our government was being overthrown. It's so asinine. You got to love the point and the fact that she never ever talks about what Democrats are doing, which is basically the exact same thing, of them basically storming the Tennessee Capitol. And I think they even stormed the Capitol to Kentucky and like 2 other states as well. But she's not going to bring up the historical facts of actually people storming the Senate and disrupting that. I mean, it's amazing how they're always cherry picking certain things that fit their narrative, but they never talk about the things that don't fit their narrative and go against themselves, which obviously why would they do? But I'm going to let her finish here on her nonsense and her ramble, and he'll push back, folks. So I'm showing this her reason. He pushes back and calls her out.
that, our democracy, literally our democracy under attack. And so the president will never shy away when it comes to our democracy, when it comes to the fabric of who we are as a country and what makes this country what it is. And so it was a different moment and a different time. I hear.
Follow up.
I know, but let me.
Sure, go ahead.
When it comes to these types of cases, these criminal, specific cases, we're just not going to comment. I know there's a broad. I get you. I know there's a broader question of what this means, the precedent, and what the president is going to decide or make decisions that he might make, like hypothetical questions. I'm just not going to comment from here on that.
Again, and I was asking why you weren't going to comment on there.
I'm hoping that I laid that out for you, and I just laid out why we commented on January 6th, and we're just going to be very mindful. These are ongoing cases.
500 cases involving Americans whose freedom was at risk.
I hear you. But
right?
this is something that all of Americans watch in real time. And people died. People died.
Karine, I don't need a lecture on the fact that people
But you're lecturing me.
But
you're lecturing me.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm asking questions, and what I'm saying is there are millions of people out there watching today. You called January 6th historic. It was absolutely historic, and none of us had ever seen that before. Nobody's seen this before either. There are millions and millions of Americans watching the first time in 250 years a former president be hauled into court and processed for arrest. That means something. That has some effect, potentially, I suspect, on American democracy and on how the rest of the world. The president has talked a lot about how the rest of the world sees the United States in the wake of January 6th. Totally valid. Why isn't there a similar kind of assessment about how the world is watching us now? Good or bad? I'm not making a judgment whichever way. I'm just saying.
And I hear your question. January 6th was a different moment. It just was. It was something that was incredibly devastating. People died on that day and were harmed. And
it's amazing. It's amazing, you guys. Look, in Democrats' mind, and they literally equated to this, they equated January 6th like Pearl Harbor and 9/11. We saw the footage. Tucker Carlson came out with it. They were literally being chauffeured around the Senate. They were being chauffeured around the Capitol, like all the rooms by Capitol Police. But it's a threat to democracy. They were overtaking everything. So, come on. Yes, people died. People were hurt. It was a bad thing that happened. Everybody agrees with that. But this is a huge moment as well. You are literally setting a precedent for everything going forward in our country, going after prior presidents for literally giving a porn star $130,000 of hush money. You literally had Alvin Bragg shut down parts of New York City, bring in like thousands of police officers. He spent like $200 million for one day, a few hours of a guy that gave $130,000 of hush money to a porn star. $200 million of taxpayer dollars versus $130,000 of a dude's private owned money. And it's one day, a few hours. You think that this is probably going to happen again?
it was just something that we saw visually, that we reacted to, and many people were scared in that moment. And as the president was taking office, as the next president of the United States, a president that ran on bringing the country together, on protecting our democracy,
that's working out so well.
It was something that
right
it was
now.
important to speak to at that moment. And also, we know that Americans still very much care about this. When it comes to a criminal investigation like this, that is ongoing, we are just not going to comment. We're not going to interfere. We're not going to politically interfere from here. And we've been consistent. We've been very consistent. I know you're bringing up January 6th. I just laid out why we believe that was very different. But we're just going to be consistent on not commenting on any criminal ongoing investigation.
We're going to be consistent, but yet we're not going to be consistent. She acts like there's no cameras. Like, you really can't make this up. It is so insane what is happening right now with this country. And I mean, there is a divide. But remember, Barack Obama was supposed to be the hope. Barack Obama was supposed to sit there and stitch together the social fabric. And then that didn't happen, right? Then you had Donald Trump come in and try to figure everything out here, basically trying to fix the mess that, Barack Obama caused. And then you have Trump fix up a lot of stuff. We're all doing great, trying to release the pandemic on everybody. Nothing's still happened to them, by the way. Joe Biden gets put in office, and it's the same narrative. Oh, I'm the new hope. I'm going to bring everything back together. I'm going to unify the country, which he's done zero of. And now this is all happening. So you have a rant here from Donald Trump Jr., speaking of moving into our next segment, where he just lays into everything going on. And it's a freaking phenomenal rant. And really, not much of what he says here is wrong. So let's hear the man go off. I haven't seen this yet. I've heard good things. Let's go ahead and roll it.
We are in a fight for the future of our country, for our very existence. And man, I guess I was proven even more right than I would have ever imagined, because apparently, Soros-backed Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is actually indicting my father. So let's be clear, folks. This is like communist level shit. This is stuff that would make Mao, Stalin, Pol Pot, it would make them blush.
I don't know about making them blush, but many of you don't know this. I've been on a big Mao binge in terms of reading, going from the Cultural Revolution all the way back to the Great Leap Forward. I mean, these books are like Harvard level textbooks that I'm reading on this stuff. And I wouldn't say they would be blushing, but it is definitely something that you would expect to see from Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot. Like, he is 100% dead on that. Let him continue.
So flagrant. It's so crazed when even like the radical leftists of the Washington Post are out there saying, it's not really based on facts. It's not really based on the law. It's not really based in reality, but it's 100% based on politics. When your enemies are saying that,
not wrong. He's
Gotta
hitting
tell
it dead
you
on the spot,
everything
folks.
you need to know right now about where we are as a country. You see what's going on this weekend and the apologies for the trans shooter. You saw the press secretary, maybe. I know I tweeted about it earlier, saying, we're really concerned about the trans community. Yeah, because it's them, right? It's them. So apparently, this corrupt leftist DA is indicting my father on claims that even the federal government that spent 6 years trying to put him in jail, even they didn't want to touch it. And
he's just hitting this perfect, by the way. And I would also like to point out, you guys, to give you a perspective here. This guy, and by guy, I mean Mr. 45 here, one of the best presidents we've ever had in American history, Donald Trump, has had so many investigations on him. I mean, they've literally gone through his underwear drawer. That's how in depth they've gone after this guy. They've seen under the hood. They've seen everything this guy could possibly have in terms of paperwork. And the best that they can get this guy on is $130,000 of, quote, hush money to a porn star, Stormy Daniels, of which even that idea is loosely based, predicated on what she said. This is wild. I mean, for as dirty as a lot of Democrats say this guy is, this is what they're going to get him on, is $130,000 of hush money. Can you just imagine just what is under Joe Biden's hood, on what Joe Biden's hiding? I mean, they went after Donald Trump for a phone call with Zelensky, a phone call. We literally have a quid pro quo with Joe Biden and Ukraine and Zelensky. Everything going involved. I mean, it's literally on videotape, but no investigation there. No, we're going to let him slide. Everything's going to be A-okay. We literally have Hunter Biden on tape committing a crime. Nothing done there. I mean, it's crazy.
yet they go forward. So let's be very clear, because there were a couple Republicans, people who have proven themselves to be rhinos while, trying to wear the MAGA cap. Let's be clear, for those people who said, it's not real, Trump's making it up, it's not a real issue for us. If you don't think that the weaponization of the entire federal government against their political enemies, against the voters, half of the country, approximately, as we've seen, if you don't think that's a problem, you don't even belong in any position in government, let alone president. I get you can have your sound bites and you can do your nonsense and pretend you're doing great and hire your influencers, but if you don't think that's an issue, guess what? Just wait till they come for you, because they will. We're in a battle for our existence. And this entire case
100% agree with that statement.
hinges on unreliable, discredited witnesses like Stormy Daniels, who I believe owes my father a couple $100,000 in legal fees because...
Which supposedly that report, that's actually breaking news right now while we're recording this. Supposedly Donald Trump is getting like $128,000 or $178,000, something like that, dollars from Stormy Daniels. And I think that's on top of the money she already owes him. So that's breaking news for you.
They lost. It hinged on disgraced, jailed, disbarred clown lawyer Michael Cohen, along with a really shaky and murky legal theory surrounding campaign finance law. Again, that the people who actually look at campaign finance law, like the feds, they didn't even look at it. A state district attorney has no business prosecuting a federal campaign violation, but that doesn't matter.
Correct.
Who cares, guys? The law doesn't really matter if you can weaponize it against conservatives, if you can weaponize it against people who are going to take on the swamp.
This is not the only time this has happened. I mean, this is on a whole different level, but we've talked about it at length, how you had the weaponization of the government, the federal government, done under the Obama administration. I mean, there's a fabulous book. It's called The People versus Barack Obama, written by Ben Shapiro, a lawyer. Does a fabulous job of displaying the ATF, the Fast and Furious case, sitting there weaponizing the IRS to go after political opponents and conservatives, which literally the Biden administration is doing as well. And that's why you had Matt Taibbi, the guy that was releasing the documents of the Twitter files and everything that's going along with it from Elon Musk. The day before he's to go brief and basically meet with Congress to talk about this whole thing, the IRS shows up at his doorstep literally 24 hours before he's supposed to go talk about all that stuff. It's insane what's going on, and it's only gonna get worse. And like I said, they're going after average Americans. Matt Taibbi's just a journalist, an average American. They're going after him. Couldn't be more right here from Donald Trump Jr.
You know, notice they don't do this to the Biden administration or to the Biden family or to the Clintons or to any one of the corrupt Democrats out there that have made millions and probably billions, where there's smoke like you wouldn't believe. It's not even a story. That's Russian disinformation.
You really see Donald Trump in him, right? There's smoke in which you wouldn't believe, but they're not going to look under Joe Biden's hood. I'm telling you what, the greasy, right? The guy that loves chocolate chip ice cream, they're not going to look under the hood on him, okay? Nothing at all. Where's Jim Acosta on this? The guy said he's a journalist, but where is he, huh? Where's the other cameras, huh? You know, it's the worst presidency that's ever been. Donald Trump is the best president that ever was. I'm working on the Donald Trump impression, folks. We're getting there, but the man is spot freaking on. He's preaching it, baby, preaching it.
As backed up by mainstream media, by big tech, by people from the intelligence community who know. When they lie to you, when they lie to your face, there's no consequence, there's no nothing. Now, if it was the other way and you talk about the Biden administration, oh, you can't possibly do that. No. It's only Trump. So this is weaponized justice at its absolute worst. Okay? I've thought America was going on a downhill slope for quite some time, and that's why my father got in this game, to fight back for the American people. When I see this, and when I see the weak-kneed Republican response of, it's not really an issue, yeah, because it's not on you yet, but it will be. They've made that very clear. Look at what we saw just today. You know, the QAnon shaman released 14 months early after spending 2 years in jail unnecessarily because the Democrats wouldn't release.
I agree with Donald Trump Jr. saying here, but as I've always told you guys, I'm not just always going to side with the Trump family or Donald Trump, okay? I am a Republican. I will vote for Donald Trump again. But I do want to point out and just give you a little bit more information on this here, is a lot of people think, oh, well, Trump, yes, getting indicted, and it just so happens the QAnon shaman was released. The QAnon shaman's own lawyer literally said that it was kind of expected that he was going to get out on that exact day all along. And he had even told his client, the QAnon shaman, that this would be the date. So I don't think there's really anything more to kind of add to that whole thing, other than the fact of this was actually the expected date. I know Donald Trump Jr. saying, well, it was supposed to be another 14 months. Well, the QAnon shaman thought the whole totality of him being behind bars was going to be an additional 14 months from what the time was when he was actually released. But again, the lawyers of the QAnon shaman literally always expected him actually to be out on that day. So that's really not a surprise, or shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
The exculpatory video that got him out of jail now. The guy did almost 3 years in jail for a nonviolent offense. And then it was shown that he was essentially escorted around the building. Can't show that video, can't give that to him, because that would get him out of it. Because that would actually clear everyone else who's been in jail. We had Joe McBride on here 2 weeks ago talking about just that, a lawyer who represents some of these jailed peaceful defendants. Now, they'll spend time in jail, but you know, if you burn down a building, if you kill David Dorn, you know, it's in the name of social justice. It doesn't really matter. It's different. So if you don't think that this is the weaponization of justice, if you don't think that there's a two-tiered system of justice depending on which side of the political spectrum you're on, you haven't been watching.
Boy, oh boy. And there's a few more minutes left, but the man is not wrong, you guys. And you know what's funny is that the Young Turks presented this whole thing, are trying to basically bash Donald Trump Jr. for basically, honestly, just saying the truth. But it is setting a scary precedence here in terms of what the Democrats are willing to do. And I really do firmly believe this. I don't think every Democrat, but I firmly do believe the Democrat Party and progressive left are such a danger to this country where there's no need to be a danger to this country. There's a lot of Democrats that are centrists, even though a Democrat that's centrist today is still far left of what like JFK was back in what, like the 60s or whatever. So even though they'll say that the Republican Party and the conservatives are even further right, which actually the data just doesn't support that statement, but that's here nor there. What they're doing right now is insane. And I keep using that word because I don't have another word to describe what we're seeing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Trump fan and that I like Trump. I don't even like a lot of things that Trump says, and even some of the things that he does in his personal life. I like the policies, things that he's implemented, putting America first, right? Securing our border, his foreign policy. All that stuff is great. But this is insane. And you've literally just ruined something that didn't need to be ruined, all for the sake of because you don't like Donald Trump and you want to see him behind bars. This is not something that is conducted in America. This has never been conducted in America. Lady Justice is no longer blindfolded. She's only blindfolded whenever a Democrat walks by. But when a conservative Republican walks by, you'll be sure that she's going to nab him or her really quick, depending on who it is. This is insane, you guys. It starts with Trump and it ends with the average American Joe like you and I. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments below. Moving into our last story of the day, we got Dan Crenshaw on CNN here being questioned about guns. Just not only listen to his comebacks here, but listen how this anchor responds to some of his statements, which is insane. I know I'm using this word all the time, but it really is. I mean, if you could think of another word other than insane, let me know in the live chat or comment section below that we can utilize here, because am I going to say bat bleep crazy, which is what I used to use, but I can't cuss on YouTube? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below.
I want to ask you about guns. You're a member of the new House Republican majority. Are you collectively, House Republicans, telling the American people that mass shootings, including of young children, is that just something that's going to happen and you're not going to make any moves at this point to try to stop it when it comes to the House of Representatives?
Here we go, echoing the same exact thing from the White House, the Biden White House. And you see this from certain journalists and certain outlets like CNN. I'm not saying CNN doesn't get some things right, but the vast majority of what they say tends to be leaning toward the Democrat side of the aisle, of which they still say they're unbiased, newsworthy. They're somehow the most trusted news out there, or news outlet, which obviously is a bunch of bogus stuff they push and promulgate out there. But we literally saw Karine Jean-Pierre say this exact same thing, that the Republicans say there's nothing we can do. And then she grandstand and say, oh, well, are you going to look into the victims of the shooter and say that there's nothing you could do? Are you going to look at the victims and their families of Uvalde right in the eyes and tell them there's nothing you could do? And we're all sitting here going, well, we would like armed guards in the school system. You send billions of dollars to Zelensky and Ukraine and other nations that talk bleep behind our back in front of the UN. If you want to see that, Nikki Haley talks about that a lot, called With All Due Respect, I think is her book is called, by Nikki Haley. Does a phenomenal job of basically ousting the United Nations. But how all these countries just talk bleep behind our back and in front of our face as well, and we just give them billions and billions of dollars. Why don't we spend those billions and billions of dollars of securing our schools and putting armed guards in our school systems? Because these shootings don't happen when there's an armed guard on campus. And if they do, it's stopped relatively quickly. Let's hear Dan Crenshaw's response to all this, because she's spewing a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, well, not at all. Look, and I think we do need to have a real conversation about what's happening here. And what I have long called this is a sort of social contagion that's occurred ever since Columbine. This never happened before Columbine. But then Columbine happened, and it was very famous, and it sort of opened the door for very, very disturbed people, whoever they might be, to go in and commit these kind of dramatic, randomized shootings as their outlet for their own evil and crazy. That's basically what's happening.
So you've just...
Now, because it's so random and unexpected, it's hard to prevent. Because they seem like they happen a lot, but they're still anomalous events, and they're very difficult to build a pattern behind. It's not like criminal activity, which you can target and prevent through law enforcement. This is harder. It doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. The truth of the matter is, if we had a minimum of 2 armed guards or police officers at every single school in America, you'd probably prevent these from here on out.
Well, you said
that's the truth.
You said that they're random. The one through line in these deaths is that they are shootings, therefore they are done by guns. And guns are the leading cause of death for children and teens in the U.S. So shouldn't helping save the lives of children be a top priority for you as a member of the House majority?
Spewing the same exact stuff as we've seen Karine Jean-Pierre and this Biden administration do. I mean, they are literally just a mouthpiece for this administration. What she said is technically in certain studies true between ages 1 to 19, depending on one study, 1 to 18, depending on another study, is that gun-related deaths are the leading cause of death of children, which I find it interesting. They use 18 and 19-year-olds as children, but that's here nor there. First of all, they also leave out certain infant deaths, which messes with the sample space or your denominator of when you're conducting these studies. But again, that's here nor there. That's for a whole separate video. But it's amazing here as she's making it seem and correlating that the gun-related deaths that are happening with children can be absorbed almost wholly by these mass shootings conducted in these school systems or these school sites or these campuses, however you want to phrase it, where it is an anomaly. It is literally an outlier of you being in an active shooter situation on campus. I mean, you're more likely to be struck by lightning, I believe. Don't quote me wholly on that. I literally just did that on top of my head. I could be wrong on that. So some people are like, well, not really, Brad. I mean, really, if you look at it, you're blah, 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 one in every chance of being struck by lightning. You understand what I'm saying. It is virtually not going to happen to the vast majority of Americans throughout their entire life to ever be involved in an active shooter situation, let alone one on campus while you're attending school. But this is stuff they're going to push here and peddle. And you have people that don't know stats. They don't know how to read studies. They don't know how to comprehend all this stuff. So they just take it and soak it all in and go, oh, it's true. It's believable.
No, it absolutely should be, which is why I say I would look to the thing that would absolutely stop this, which is putting armed police officers at every school. I visit a lot of schools. I do talks at various schools. It's very rare that I go into a school, especially the newer ones, and they don't have some kind of armed police presence there at all times. So that's a preventive measure. That I know will stop this. And there was nothing like that in these last few mass shootings. There's no armed guards there.
So the answer is
if I'm just looking for
guns.
actual solutions, that would be it.
So the answer is more guns.
No, the answer is armed guards. No, the answer is armed guards, right? Armed guards, yes, more guns. The kind of guns that protect the president, that protect you all at CNN. Is it easy to get into your headquarters at CNN? Absolutely not. There's armed guards there. Yeah. There's single points of entry. I think we should look at our schools as a place that is precious and have the same kind of security that your corporate offices do, that we do in Congress. You know, if we consider a place to be important where our children go to learn every day, it should have the same level of security as every other place, whether it's a shopping mall or a corporate office that's hard to get into. You're not going to get rid of guns. And I'm not going to say that people can that law-abiding citizens cannot defend themselves anymore and exercise their Second Amendment rights and think that's going to stop mass violence. People will figure out other ways to commit mass violence once they've unfortunately reached that point in their life. It's tragic and it's sad, and a lot of people, we don't understand what's happening, what's inside their heads. And so we look to these other solutions that I think aren't viable.
There were supposed to be armed guards at the schools in both Uvalde in your home state of Texas and...
Supposed to be. So they weren't there, lady. Supposed to be is different than actually being present there.
Parkland, and that didn't help anything. Let's just move on because I know energy is a big issue.
But they weren't there, which is the point.
Well, okay, but they're humans, and that also happens. Let's talk about...
They're humans, and that happens. Okay, great comeback. And by the way, they go into a whole different story here. But we have to understand this, you guys, especially as conservatives, Republicans, and I think a lot of you get this as well. The objective isn't really about protecting your son or daughter on campus. If it was, it could be fixed literally in a blink of an eye with the funding. I mean, literally in a blink of an eye, you could have not just 2, 3, I mean, you could probably have 10 armed guards on campus, on every school campus in America, overnight. They don't want to do it. If they did, it would be done already. Both on conservatives, Republicans, but also Democrats side of the aisle as well, and progressive left. What it's all about here is control. Who's going to control the weapons? Is the government going to control the weapons, or is the private citizens going to control the weapons? If it's the government taking your firearms from your hands, at that point, now they control the firearms, they control the guns, they control which rights that you get, and you see this whole thing going on with Trump. If they remove your firearms, folks, you have nothing to protect yourself with. You have nothing to stick up for your rights with if you lose that Second Amendment right. They'll still say that it's there. They'll still say, oh, we don't want to remove all of your guns. Oh, you can keep that gun. Oh, you can keep that gun after a certain date and time. Or, oh, we'll grandfather this firearm in. They want to sit there and chisel away at it. That's the real goal here. If you notice, everything she said, Karine Jean-Pierre said, we literally did a montage on our shorts of Joe Biden saying he wants to sit there and remove automatic weapons or I should say automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons, but he said assault weapons to be more specific. Automatic weapons have already been banned for decades. But you understand what I'm trying to say. The real objective here is to take your firearms. The real objective is to give government control, meaning the Democrat Party control. And the more control they have, the more they're going to sit there and encroach upon your life and sit there and remove your rights away. It might not happen tonight, might not happen in your lifetime, might not happen in 50 years, 100 years, 150 years. But over the course of time, I firmly do believe that America, starting now and forward, is going to sit there and slowly chisel away at your rights. And it will slowly happen to a point where we're not going to have rights anymore. If they're talking like this in 2023, can you imagine what they're going to talk about in 21, 23, 22, 23? It's going to be insane, folks, if we even last that long with what China's doing in Ukraine, with Russia invading and all this other nonsense with Iran and wanting to wipe basically Western civilization and Israel and the United States off the map. I mean, we're going into way different topics here, but you understand the goal here is to sit there and take away your firearms, folks. You need to stand up and rise up and get your friends, honestly, to vote in 2024 because you're seeing some serious ish right now. It's insane what is happening. And I'm going to keep using the word insane until somebody tells me to utilize one different. All right, let me live chat. Shib, where you at? Neil, Green, Music Junkie. I mean, we all hang out together, folks. That's only a list of them. You got Jennifer. I mean, there's a long list of people that join us in live chat. You know I love you guys to death. Thanks for always hanging out and supporting the show. If you haven't already, picked up a copy of Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. I was looking for Karine Jean-Pierre's answers in this earlier, couldn't find it. But what you will find is answers to how the progressive left and the Democrat Party is destroying this country from the inside out, folks. It's a great book. They're selling like hotcakes on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Leave us a 5-star review if you haven't already, folks. It could be something short and sweet, but you want conservatives and Republicans to read this, folks, because I'm telling you, as you saw from Donald Trump Jr., you have the Democrat Party and the progressive left weaponizing the government, and boy, oh boy, are they destroying this country from the inside out. This book's going to be timely for another 2 years, folks. We might need a volume 2. We'll have to see. But as always, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. If you don't know what to write, tell us who you plan on voting for in 2024. Is it going to be Donald Trump? Is it going to be Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley? Let us know in the comment section below. Were you once for DeSantis and now all this is going on with Trump and now you're swinging over to Trump's side? We want to know all about it. With that being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Paul Brad Show.